Tuesday, it's cold. It is the 19th day of January 2016. As we watch the television news and watch the impending crash of Wall Street, that'll be good today. There are already stories about that going further into the toilet. So prepare for that. And just the cold weather as the extreme coldness is here and north of us. As usual, Dyersburg, Jackson, they may get some snow and some moisture, but not around here until maybe midweek, but no one knows. So we'll sit back and speculate and watch the weather boys have a complete and utter meltdown. They love this time of year. Thanks to Kyle Veazey for his weekly visit. We always have a good time with him. Smart man doing good work for the mayor. Another guest on this program that we always enjoy seeing. It's been a while because she was busy last year. Amy Weirich is the Attorney General for the County of Shelby. She was busy last year, and I know that when I'm at the gym some days and I have the TV's on, and they go to a live breaking news thing, and Amy walks up to the podium with her glasses on, I know it's serious business.
So do my kids.
It's like, okay, she's mad about something. Great to see you as always.
Always good to be here.
What lingering business from last year was not completed, or is all of this in the books, 2016, clean slate, or what lingers from what you had to deal with? Darius Stewart was a big thing. All of these, or does it ever end?
It really doesn't ever end, and in terms of top issues that are lingering, of course, the body cameras and
we'll get there, don't worry.
Well, good. And legislation. There are some important pieces of legislation that are vital to the district attorneys across the state and to the safety of the public that we serve, and we hope to have some success with the General Assembly in that arena.
Now, do those issues of which you speak have to do with what the Shelby County Commission is preparing to propose to the state assembly in Nashville? They're meeting, I guess, today, as is the city council. Do the things that they come up with and propose to the state go through you first, or you ask, or that's a whole separate deal?
A whole separate deal. We do have the Crime Commission, which puts together with Operation Safe Community and both of the mayors, Mayor Strickland and Mayor Luttrell, a legislative agenda, and much of that touches on the issue of crime. And I think the last time I was here, I spoke to you about our work on the governor's task force on sentencing and recidivism, and Governor
Yes.
Haslam was here last week and actually unveiled the Safer Tennessee plan. And so a lot of the recommendations that the task force that I served on recommended to Governor Haslam will now become part of what the administration pushes and tries to get passed in the General Assembly. But it's going to come down to the representatives and senators that represent all of us across the state and the will to pass this important legislation.
Okay, the story about the mayor, he was here January 14th, that was last week. The piece from the Commercial Appeal, I guess this is, discusses reducing the number of repeat criminal offenders. We have talked about that with you, with A.C. Horton, with Bill Gibbons, with everybody in this realm for years.
Mm-hmm. We, and in the state of Tennessee, our recidivism rate, which is repeat offenders, people that pick up new felony cases within, I think the benchmark is 2, maybe 3 years of being released from a prior crime, we hover at about 40%, which is unacceptable. And so much of what the governor has outlined, much of the work that he tasked the task force with was, how do we make sure the worst of the worst, repeat violent offenders who have proven to us they have no place in our society, how do we make sure they stay behind bars forever? And for those others who get out of custody and maybe have a hot drug screen because of a cocaine addiction, what can we do to use our prison beds in the most effective way? And is there a better way to get their attention quickly, swiftly, efficiently, and get them back to their work, to their families, and to rebuilding their lives?
Yeah, as you hear about the crowding of jails and all of that stuff from people that maybe haven't done something as severe as somebody else, that's where the dichotomy is. They should all probably be locked up, but who deserves it more or something, which is an odd way to put it. But
sure, it's just about using our prison beds in the best way. It's why drug court works so well. It's why we now have a mental health court. It's why we have a veterans court in Shelby County. Part of what the governor is proposing is taking those things that we're doing here in Shelby County and making those statewide models. In a similar way, it's why gang injunctions work and that's one of the things we're most proud of.
What do those mean for those that don't know?
That is a safety zone that is declared by Judge Potter based upon proof that we bring him of an identified gang and its identified members wreaking havoc in a community. And without using handcuffs, without arresting anybody, we've been able to bring some peace to these war-torn neighborhoods in our city. And so Governor Haslam has said, you know, what they're doing in Shelby County through this multi-agency gang unit, let's take that across the state and see if we can have, because we're not the only city with gang problems. We're not the only city with violent crime issues.
Amy Weirich is here. On that note, there's going to be a real shakeup at the top of the MPD with Mr. Armstrong moving along here in about 2 weeks, and 4 or 5 of his staff going elsewhere too. Are you called into meetings to offer your input as to who is being interviewed? Nobody seems to know what a nationwide search means. Are there, hovercraft out looking at guys at, in California? I mean,
I hope not.
How do you do this? I mean, is it smarter to look inside this our very own city's department who know the problems, or to bring in somebody with a brand new look at this? Show them the facts. You talk to them. The mayor talks to them. What's the best way to approach this, and how much involved are you?
Well, I think we can all rest assured that it is a top focus of Mayor Strickland and his administration to make sure we get the right man or woman into that job as director of the Memphis Police Department. And I have great faith in whatever search committee he puts together, if that individual happens to be a homegrown hero, or if that individual happens to be from Fargo, North Dakota. If they are the best fit for the job, I have great faith in the search that he will do, and the name, the person that will be named to take that vital role in our community.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a big one. It's a very important hire, as everyone knows, and everybody is going to be watching this very closely to see what happens once they come on the scene. Our guest is Amy Weirich. Last week, the story about Amy was involving her event to express truancy, not to express, to investigate and discuss the excessive kids not going to school. That's what truancy means. The most disturbing part of this to me, and the most, I'm sure, unsettling to you, is that your office ID'd 117 parents who were due to receive summons, and 6 of them showed up.
Sure.
That must have really made you want to yank somebody by the back of the neck.
Well, I have that feeling quite often during the day. But I guess, if there was a first time for us to do anything like that. So stealing from that kind of Operation Safe Surrender model that we did a couple of years ago in conjunction with the federal authorities, where people can turn themselves in if they know they have an outstanding warrant in a safe environment. Stealing from that, we asked parents who had outstanding summons for their kids being truant last school year. We're not talking about kids that were truant, last month. These are old cases that we really just want to wipe the slate clean on, stress the message to these parents. We just want your kid in school, but we need to take care of this old business.
So how did you find them? How did you have this list of old business and expect them to go, okay, I'm there?
Right.
So how'd you invite them to come join you for coffee and donuts?
We asked them to come to Mount Moriah Baptist Church, and there were robocalls that went out that the school system helped us with that sent the message to the parents: you have an outstanding summons. We want to just wipe the slate clean. Nobody is going to be taken into custody. Just come and help us move past this hurdle. So all day, that day that we did the event in the evening, that day, sheriff's deputies had been out trying to serve some of these old warrants and had found nobody. So they'd been out on the sidewalk, in the cars, driving around, found absolutely nobody. So
found nobody, meaning that they wouldn't come to the door, they just weren't there.
Address was bad, whatever. Just information not correct, or nobody was there. So getting 6 of those off the docket, I guess, or off the radar, was a success in some ways, and we're going to continue to do these kind of things. But we've got to get the message out there that we want kids in school. And if your kid's not going to school today because you don't have a coat and it's 19 degrees, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you've dropped your kid off at school and you've gone on to your job and your kid's being a knucklehead, that's another thing.
But what if the parent is the absolute knucklehead, which is, I would suppose, often the case. That word is, I suppose. And why would you expect them a year or 6 months later to not feel entrapped and to go, okay, I'll go, I'm a good person? I mean, it is a beautiful idea in theory, but to make it a reality seems like you're just barking up a tree that's not going to be barked down at you or something.
And maybe so.
It's a wonderful concept.
A lot of times parents just don't know, though. They don't realize that a kid missing 5 days or more unexcused is a crime. And so it's really the worst of the worst cases that we in the DA's office want to and should be using our resources to go after under the educational neglect statute. The law gives me the authority to prosecute parents under educational neglect and ask a judge to send them to the penal farm. That's the last thing I want to do, though. So we're going to try everything we can as a community before we get to that point.
Will you try this again?
Yes.
And soon?
Yes.
Regularly?
Hope so. If we can get everybody on board and in agreement.
Do you have to wipe this first slate clean before you begin with this year?
No, these people can continue to have these lingering over their heads and causing them stress and consternation. If they get picked up on a traffic ticket, they could be found to have this criminal summons and be taken into custody. We were trying to avoid all that.
So once they get stopped for speeding or something and this pops up, then they're double effed.
Exactly.
Well, that really isn't a term for the illegal world, but
Sometimes.
I'm sure that you understand it. Amy Weirich is our guest. So the truancy thing is one of your battles. And then we go over to this body cam thing, which I know has been, as Mayor Jim has pointed out, he's been there, for about 20 days. And I don't think that people are thinking this through. It would be wonderful to have all these officers have these body cameras and to have them be able to use them as evidence against a criminal, or if they are charged, it's all right there on camera. But the idea of putting all of these, just the archiving and the putting it in a place where you can go to G and pull up Officer G's thing and look at his thing, it's a very complicated thing. Now, it's happening in other places in America, but it doesn't mean that it's any easier for us than it was for them to implement it. With technology, as someone said, doesn't the cloud and the place to store these things make it easier? Or are those of us that are not in your office missing how really difficult this is?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the DA's office, myself, we are very much in support of the use of body cameras.
Sure.
They will be a great protection for the police and the public, but they are pieces of evidence in cases. And we as prosecutors have a duty under the law to, first of all, find that evidence, turn it over to defense counsel, and make it available for a jury to see,
right,
to bring them to that crime scene. And so the cloud makes everything wonderful, but you still have to be able to find something in the cloud. And that's been some of the struggle that we've been having, is the system that has been created is going to put a onerous burden on the shoulders of my already overworked 106
right,
prosecutors in the DA's office.
Right.
We estimate it's about, conservative estimates, it's going to be about 50,000 hours of footage that's got to be watched by us. Before we can turn it over to defense counsel, we have to redact certain things from that video. We can't turn over video where someone is telling their social security number, their mother's social security number, identifying information, all of these issues. And none of that preparation, none of that work had been done before the announcement was made. We're going to start putting cameras on all the officers. What we've been doing is incrementally rolling out the car cameras. So every day in the Memphis Police Department, 5 new cars get a car camera. And every day in our office, we go to work and we look at the video footage from the day before. And there are many, many issues that are coming up just in that very small dosage of car cameras.
Yeah.
So we got to get that right before we slap the body cameras on top of that. We've got to get this right for the police, for the public, and for the system.
Have you been on the phone to the DA's office in, let's say, Chicago and said, how did y'all do this?
We have, and we've reached out to, the National District Attorneys Association in a couple of, I guess, actually next week I'll be with the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys for our winter meeting. Some of these major cities are going through these headaches. Seattle it got to be such a public records nightmare for the police department in Seattle, they just created a YouTube channel and just put the videos up on the YouTube.
That sounds frightening.
Yes, but we have laws here that we have to follow in terms of personal identifying information, and there's also just common sense and decency things that we have to figure out. If there's footage of naked people, if there's gory footage of crime scenes, if there's children's faces that we want to protect.
You don't want them on freaking YouTube.
Right.
Amy Weirich is our guest. So let's go big picture. Once you accomplish this task,
Which one?
This just having them on every officer on the street. Every precinct is covered. Every officer is wearing one. It's all good. What have you accomplished, and what things go by the wayside that plug up the process and muck up the process that didn't before, if you have evidence on film, on tape? How does that change your life and the life of a police officer?
Sure. Domestic violence is a great example, something that we battle every day. So you've got a victim who might come to court a month after her abuser was arrested and tell one of our prosecutors, it wasn't that bad, this is all a big misunderstanding and I want to drop the charges. And then that prosecutor has armed with, in their arsenal, the video footage from that first officer that arrived on the scene, and coverage and an interview statement from that victim, maybe injury, maybe tears, maybe hair all messed up, furniture knocked over, things that maybe make what she's saying today seem less believable and make us believe that we've got a good case against an abuser. And the reverse of that is true. If somebody's telling their defense attorney, I was not driving that car, they've got me confused with the passenger, it was not me behind the wheel, and we go and we pull up that video footage, first of all, we got to be able to find it.
Yep.
We got to be able to attach it to that case.
Yep.
We got to be able to watch it, and if we watch it and we see, you know what, he's right, we get rid of that case, we get it out of the system, and that person is exonerated, and we move on.
So this is worth every bit of the hassle
Yes.
that you're in right now.
No doubt.
On the back end, this will save lives and save those who may end up in jail who were innocent, or vice versa.
Exactly.
But it may take a bit, so everybody needs to calm down, and that's, I think, part of the problem. And we'll not get into who is, being the most vocal about this. It's those that don't think there are more steps to this than meets the eye.
Yes.
This isn't just about putting a camera on a cop and going, all right, see you, go out there and do it. This isn't how this works. And it also, just the expense of it and the thorough nature of having to, just the time it takes. This does seem to be, this will be hard to implement in anything but big towns in America.
It will be difficult.
South Haven,
right.
or let's say, some, small town outside of Dallas, or they will never be able to have this opportunity, which seems like not defeating the purpose, but it's a start somewhere.
Well, and a lot of the funding that is out there on a federal level specifically is geared toward purchasing the cameras for smaller, mid-range, local law enforcement that may not have that capital to buy it themselves. But what's not part of the funding is making money available for the DA's offices that are going to need extra staff to do the work that we're talking about this morning. My best conservative estimate is I'm going to need 15 additional people. I'm going to need...
Who's paying for those, the Fed or the state or the local?
I was going to ask you guys if you might make a contribution this
sure.
morning since I'm
I have
here.
a check within the car, yeah.
Great.
So if I don't and my check bounces, who pays for it?
Well, and those are conversations that we're having with state and local, and in fact I had a phone conference with somebody on the federal level last week, and have plans to meet with some individuals in DC next week to have those conversations of here's what I best guesstimate need. County bandwidth is going to have to be increased. We've had those conversations with Mayor Luttrell and his staff about what our work has what we've discovered during the research and the work that we've been doing in the last couple of weeks.
And surely you are not the only DA in America up there asking these questions.
Of course not. Of course not. Or the only one asking for money,
But if we ever intend to get the crime problem in America and under control at all, it's just everywhere. In Chicago, it is mind-boggling every weekend what happens there. In Detroit, in this town. So this is the step in the right direction. We all need to be supportive and, most of all, be patient and get up off your neck. As we say, in the street.
I couldn't have said it better.
I never thought about with the body cameras about walking into a gruesome scene, and the first thought I had when you said that was the Leicester Street
Sure.
Massacre.
Of course.
And so the photos from that and everything else get released eventually. And I don't know, I guess would there be the same law with the video? Because I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, or you'd have copycats, or why would anybody want to watch it, but you know they would.
Well, and so the same laws are going to apply, the same rules are going to apply. If it's a pending criminal case that video is attached to, no, it doesn't get released to the public until it becomes part of the public record, if it's shown to the judge or shown to the jury at the appropriate time. But the problem is we got to be able to find that video and know that it's attached to a pending criminal case, because we don't want mistakes being made where video footage is released to the public, is released to the community, and then we find out down the road, oh, wait a minute, that was mismarked, and we didn't catch it, police mismarked it, and we missed it, or whatever, and now we've got a real problem on our hands. So these are one of the many issues that
Are
we've
you
got to
sure
make sure.
so
that
many
15 people
doors.
is enough?
No, that is a conservative number, you know.
How many floors does your bunch take up down there?
Well, we are spread out all over. So we've got prosecutors at 157 Poplar, 150 Washington. We've got prosecutors at 201 Poplar. We've got prosecutors down at juvenile court. At 201, we take up part of the basement.
And there are pay phones in every spot.
Pay phones everywhere, and we have a subway now. So
That's
good.
You know, this may be a dumb question, but this morning I was kind of waking up and thought, all right, today Amy's on and Kyle's on, and this may sound stupid, but in your office, where do city and county crimes intersect? You are the Shelby County.
So any
Where
violation.
do they stop? City, county, do they all come to you if they are of a
Yes.
certain kind?
Yeah, if it's a violation of state
Well, that sounds
law.
fair.
Sure.
So where's the city DA?
Well, there's a city court prosecutor who handles traffic. So when you go to
Thanks.
201 Poplar and you
Yeah.
go down to the basement,
There's some guy in a booth writing out little receipts?
pretty much, and
Thanks.
they handle all the traffic tickets. Thank goodness we don't have to handle those. But any violation of state law that occurs in Shelby County, whether it's in Smoky City or Collierville, comes to our office.
Perfect. And let's add some body cams onto that. And we'll find you in a home somewhere in a straitjacket before too long.
Hopefully not.
You do a great job, and we always
I've got a
enjoy your
great team.
company. And best to your team. Take that Ted Koppel book with you.
I will, thank you.
And you and your husband read it and start saving up cases of water. Because when this all goes dark, your job will be the least of anyone's concerns. It'll only get worse. Amy Weirich, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's great to see you. Best to your family. And we'll chat again when all of this, when there are some answers. Let's talk some more about this.
That's a deal.
That'll be sometime this next year, I guess.
Yeah.
Amy Weirich, thank you much. Be back.